Well, teenagers in trouble with the law is an issue that's been in the headlines lately. How we stop kids embarking on a life of crime is one of the most difficult issues in the justice system. But according to two remarkable men, the answer isn't to be tough on crime. It's all about forgiveness. Patrick Emmett has their story.
The stabbing death of 14-year-old Daniel Awok in a busy city street in 2008 shocked South Australia. But even more shocking was his killer's age. He was another 14-year-old boy who is now spending at least 6 years in jail.
And that's the first point I want to make here, is that violence is extremely painful, that violence scars the soul, and sometimes it scars it forever.
Someone who knows the pain that teenage killers can inflict only too well is Azim Khamisa. His 20-year-old son Tariq was killed by a 14-year-old gang member in San Diego in 1995.
He was a very kind person, a very generous person.
Tariq Khamisa was a student delivering pizzas when he was lured to a false address by the gang and shot. His young killer was Tony Hicks, who became the first 14-year-old to stand trial as an adult in California, and he was sentenced to 25 years in jail. It was a crime that outraged America, but on the day of his son's death, Azim Khamisa's reaction was extraordinary.
My best friend was with me. I lived by myself in San Diego, and an hour and a half after we found out, his response was, "I hope the kids that killed him fry in hell." And I looked at him and I said, "I don't see it that way. I see victims at both ends of the gun."
Azim Khamisa later asked to meet Tony Hicks' grandfather, Ples Felix, who was caring for the teenager at the time of the murder.
I told Ples that I wasn't about revenge and resentment and screaming that, hang him from the highest pole. He took my one and only son. That I felt both he and I had lost a son.
My reaction immediately was that there was an answer to my prayer. And when Mr. Khamisa extended forgiveness and asked me to join him in the foundation, that was a source of jubilation for me, because I realized it would be the first step towards trying to make something very positive out of something very, very destructive.
They became the best of friends. Ples joined Azim to run the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, and they travel the world on a crusade to stop kids killing kids and embarking on a life of crime. They were brought to Adelaide by Seymour College to tell their story as part of the International Day of Peace. Their message is that most young criminals have also been the victims of crime or abuse. And to stop the cycle of violence, everyone needs to learn a simple lesson: how to forgive.
Once you practice forgiveness, you stop that cycle where it is. Society should be able to get to a point where we stop seeking a pound of flesh.
From its humble beginnings, the foundation now operates in schools and colleges across the United States, teaching kids how to break the cycle of youth violence. It also operates in 9 prisons in the United States. As part of the programs, released prisoners mentor other troubled kids. They say it's been enormously successful, reducing recidivism rates from 80 to 20% by showing the human effects of violence.
We teach that's not real life, that in real life there are family members of the victim and the offenders that suffer and suffer and suffer for a very long time. They see the pain on my face, they see the pain on his face. So we put a real face to violence.
They'd like to see their programs used in Australia's juvenile justice system, and they met with officials from South Australia. Part of the message they're keen to pass on is that tough on crime doesn't work.
That's laughable. The United States of America has more prisoners in its prisons than any place on the planet, but it has a recidivism rate of plus 80%. I mean, just look at that.
The pair hopes their programs will eventually be introduced in South Australia. Even though gang violence isn't as rampant here, they believe their approach is just as valid for issues like cyberbullying. And judging by the reaction, they already have some keen disciples.
I think everyone can relate to this story. Like, regardless of the situation you're in, you really do need to learn about forgiveness and about how to be peaceful, not just with yourself but with others.
If kids can get the idea that peace can be a possibility, non-violence, not abusing other people, and I think that's really important, and that's definitely something that's universal.
Even within your own family, that even if you just have a little bit of forgiveness, it would change your whole life.
An eye for an eye and soon the whole world is blind is a very famous Gandhi quote. You can't destroy dark with dark, but you can destroy violence with non-violence.
Something to think about there. Well, that's